why not sit back, relax, and take things easy like a Sunday morn? I'm your host, Shane Lockwood. It's the 24th of December 2017, and this is episode 67. This particular episode is going to be a very different one, and difficult, because it'll be shorter. In a bit of a time crunch. And I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year for 2018. I want to acknowledge some of the feedback that I've been getting in the last couple of months. One was from Podsocks, which is a podcast. That's PODDSOCKS, and the guys made a reference to the melatonin joke that I made last episode, and I acknowledged that and things like that. And they did an episode where they were bagging out Monsanto. Monsanto is not evil. They're not actually very big. There is a multitude of biotech companies and things like that. But the real scam, the real rip-off, is the big organic industry. They make billions of dollars. And they're pulling the wool over people's eyes, overcharging people for fruits and vegetables and things like that. They use far more pesticides. But don't be scared. Just wash your fruit when you buy it, and it's all the same. Really, why pay more? Why pay more for the same thing? A good friend of mine, Melissa, asked me to talk about Art Bell. Art Bell used to do a show called Coast to Coast AM, and that was taken over by a guy by the name of George Norrie, I think. And the show was about UFOs and Bigfoot and conspiracy theories, I think. Please correct me on that if I'm wrong. I'll have to do some more research. I'm in a time crunch because I'm going on holiday very shortly, as in like a few hours from now. So I've got to get this out and done and uploaded. I want to say thank you to Andrew, who says that he listens to my show, listens to older episodes and things like that. Hopefully I'll have some more new, fresh content for you in the new year on a more and more regular basis. For those of you who are supporting me through Patreon, that helps a lot. And I know a few people are they're wary about Patreon, they're wary about other forms of crowdsourcing and things like that. Guaranteed, every cent goes back into the podcast. It has to. There's a whole heap of fees and things that I have to pay for Spreaker, and one of my goals was to pay like an annual fee. I just haven't been able to afford it. I'm just running around either working or looking for work or doing other things, flying to Sydney and back for a convention called Skepticon. And I want to thank my good friend Elvin for inviting me over, and I've got to pay him back for the plane tickets and stuff like that. But we stayed with his friends Adam and Isabel Reeks and their cat. I'm going to get this wrong. It's Pastis, who gnawed at my arm one night too. But I met in let's start again. In Skepticon, or at Skepticon in Sydney, I met a few of my favourite podcasters, like Noah and Lucinda Illusions, Eli and Anna Bosnick, Heath Enright from the Scathing Atheist podcast. Heath Enright is 6'4". Tom and Cecil from Cognitive Dissonance, Citation Needed, and the other guys from the Skepticrat. I met Andrew Torres from the Opening Arguments podcast, Maynard from Bunga Bunga, Richard from the Skeptic Zone podcast, James from The Bunk, that's BUNK. Captain Disillusion had a message about a presentation really on not being a dick online, and we got to speak to Dr. Carl Krzyzewski. He was absolutely fantastic. Do Google him. I'm not going to spell his surname here, don't have time. Cara Santa Maria from the Talk Nerdy podcast and Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, which is a great scientific podcast. Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. Do look that one up. And I want to say a special super duper shout out to Maria, the gorgeous flight attendant on the way back there and back. But one of the things that was preventing me from uploading episodes regularly was, one, the lack of funding to the podcast itself, because I now have to either delete episodes or pay Spreaker, and I don't like deleting episodes on the Spreaker site because it deletes them elsewhere like iTunes and other places as well. So please consider becoming a Patreon supporter on patreon.com/ELASM. The contact details for all that are down in the description down below, whichever format you're using here. I did lose a Patreon supporter because of Patreon doing some funny business. They were going to charge their supporters, you guys, would have been like an extra, I don't know, 70 cents on the dollar or something like that. It was something when you added it all up. So for every $1 donation, it would have been an extra 70 cents. And there was a massive backlash, and Patreon have decided, okay, no, we can't do that. So they're going to try and find the money somewhere, but I don't know. Either way, I'm glad that they didn't go through that, because that would have pretty much wiped out this podcast completely. The other issue is that I have depression, and it affects me sometimes, not all the time, and I'm constantly fighting my own mind and wanting this podcast to be absolute perfection and things like that. And I try to do my best to produce the best audio quality and things that I can in the depending on my circumstances, of course. I uploaded a couple of podcasts that didn't have the best audio quality, and I suffered as a result. The last podcast had better audio quality, and it didn't break 30 downloads. And plus, with on top of everything else, it became a deterrent. I had to struggle to even do this. I spent all night doing this, and then in the end, I've just went, you know what? I'm just going to do a very quick thank you to everybody who I needed to say thank you to, and let you guys know how much I appreciate what it is that you actually do for me behind the scenes, whether you're talking about my podcast, sharing it with a friend, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's all that out of the way. Now we can get to the relaxation part of things. If you are sitting down at a chair and taking notes, there's not a whole lot in regards to notes and things this time around. There will be in the next particular podcast in terms of putting money aside. A bit of an update as to what I've been doing. I've been putting aside $25 a fortnight every 2 weeks into another bank account, and I've set told the bank to do it automatically, so every fortnight without fail $25 comes out of my pay and into the other bank account. You can do that at home, you can do that at your end as well. I've got a couple of $100 that is in another account because of this, because I started it a while ago, and that will keep going. Now, I had to work a paid job in order to get to that point where I could be ahead, so that money coming out wasn't a penalty for me at all. And now I've got a couple of $100, right? That money will grow over time, and that won't be spent at all. Other money that I earn and whatnot will go back into this podcast, and hopefully we'll get some more fan funding and things like that, and some more other awesome stuff can happen. But that's all for next year. If you are sitting in a couch, your favorite armchair, sofa with your favorite beverage, do sit back and relax, take things easily. I know I'm speaking really fast because I'm in a bit of a time crunch, you see, but play this back again at a slower speed if your podcast service allows it. I know that YouTube does a 0.5. If you want to slow it down and just relax, focus on your breathing, and just relax and unwind, let go of everything that's gone before, all the dramas, all the gossip, all the he said, she said, the hearsay, all the things that you put on yourself that need to be done. They can rest, they can be put aside for the next however long this podcast is going for. If you're in bed trying to get some sleep, close your eyes, focus on your breathing. You're breathing in, you're breathing out, you're breathing in, you're breathing out. Just slow it right down and just relax. Don't worry about Christmas celebrations and everything that's going to go on, and New Year's Eve parties and after work parties and all that sort of stuff. Just let it all go. Let it all go. So when you enter the new year, when you go into Christmas, you can have a big smile on your face and know that you've done the best that you could for the year. And then we're going to start again and we'll set some more goals and things like that. What I will do is talk about some of the goals that I've achieved. Excuse me for moving away from the microphone. I have managed to lose and keep off 10 kilos from my starting weight, which was 120 kilos. I'm now down to around 110. I still have a long way to go, but I did get down to about 102 kilos at some point last year. But we're going to try and get that happening again. And I've got a new computer happening, so there's all sorts of stuff happening, and hopefully you guys will be with me with this podcast in the near future. So that's pretty much all I've got. Oh yeah, by the way, I want to thank everybody on Facebook who basically I went for a job interview, or what I thought was a job interview, and it turned out to be a bit of a scam. So I want to thank everybody who stood up for me and said, look, no, run away from it. It's obviously a scam and things like that. You guys are absolutely amazing. So thank you very much for Dan, Medzi, and pretty much everybody else who listens to this podcast and is in my Facebook group and all that sort of stuff. There's so much more stuff about Skepticon that I could go through. Adam and Isabel Reeks were absolutely fantastic hosts. They live in on Manly Beach. Is it Manly Beach? Near the Circular Quay. Or I'm getting confused now. Yeah, Manly Beach. They're absolutely fantastic hosts. Adam and Isabel. Well, Adam does the Herd Community podcast. That's another scientific atheistic one. It's worth listening to. He does a lot of adults only parodies of things. Do go through and check out the other podcasts that I've mentioned throughout the show. And what I'll do is I'll leave you with the code word, which is session. It's SESSION. And if you could leave a comment letting me know that you've listened to this podcast this far. The reason I set up a code word is so that I could test the YouTube analytics to see how far people are actually listening. And because sometimes it would say, well, the two people would download the episode and then it would only say that you'd listen to, say, 15 minutes of a 30-minute podcast. What I realized was because both people were using the code word, you'd both listened all the way through, but it divided it by 2 because it was an average. So those figures are very misleading and things like that. So thank you. Please use the code word in any format. Message me in Facebook or YouTube or wherever you are listening to this. Please excuse my rapid voice again. But I do once again want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I apologise if this particular podcast does not have the calming, relaxing effect that other ones may have. But we're going to go into the new year with me with another podcast under my belt. And I want to do this at least every couple of weeks if I can. Once again, I've said there are financial things that I have to overcome before that. If you want to help, there's methods of doing that. Just let me know. And yeah, I hope that 2018 is a lot better than 2017 was. 2017 was better than 2016. Anyway, that's all from me today. Look after yourselves and may today and every day be easy like a Sunday morn. Bye for now.